Due to the explanations of the ontological insights presented, the viewer may find this video to be somewhat abstract. Conceptual elasticity is advised. Greetings and welcome to this video presentation outlining the Jain view of reality, known in Sanskrit as Anekantavad, translated in English as non-one-sided reality or non-one-sided view. This is part 2 of the 3-part series and is entitled Conditional or Qualified Assertion, subtitled How to Make Statements in a Relativistic Reality. My name is Balabhadra. There is a Jain adage, the universe is for the purification and liberation of souls. We live in a marvelous, mysterious, providential reality which Jain Anekantavad reveals and helps us to realize and appreciate the wisdom of the adage. This video will show how Jainism summarizes this reality in 7 brief statements, which in turn allows us to make accurate statements in light of the relativistic mystery. Before starting, I want to once again state that this 3-part video series is an elementary outline of the Jain understanding of reality. Reality is super complex, and the information provided by the Jain scholars reflects that complexity. The intention of this series is to provide sufficient information which can be applied to one's life and stimulate further study. The book, The Jaina Theories of Reality and Knowledge, is an excellent resource and provides a more wide-ranging explanation. Although part 1 contained a lot of philosophical complexity, there is one central message to clearly realize and remember. According to Jainism, everything that exists in reality, including such things as our emotions, is comprised and must be comprised of 2 fundamental opposing characteristics, plus their relationship, which requires a 3rd characteristic. This results in reality being experienced as contradictory and paradoxical, which these 2 equations help explain. 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 1 = 3. In Jaina philosophy, a thing that exists is termed an existent. Also, I am using the terms threefold, manifold, and multifold interchangeably throughout. Part 1 used 3 primary characteristics of reality: permanence, change, and permanence-and-change, to explain the unique Jain view. These 3 can be expressed in more general terms: what the existent is, what the existent is not, and the relationship between the 2, what the existent is and is not. Or more concise, is not, is and is not. This threefold dynamic occurs both specifically and generally. It occurs to the specific existent, for example, is hot and is not hot specifically applies to temperature. And generally, what it is refers to an existent. What it is not refers to everything else in the universe that the existent is not. The threefold nature of reality presents a communication problem. The problem is created by the limitation of our mind. We think and express in a linear manner, meaning we express thoughts and concepts in a single sequential way, one thought or concept at a time. Considering that something which exists must consist of this threefold nature, how is it possible to make a statement or assertion about that existent when all three aspects must be expressed simultaneously for the statement to be complete? We may be able to grasp intuitively the threefold occurrence, but cannot think or express in the threefold way that reality exists. In other words, any statement regarding an existent will be only partially true due to our inability to express simultaneously its other two essential characteristics. If we say a thing is permanent, this assertion is only partially true because the statement does not include the other two aspects of the reality of the existent. Making a true partial assertion about an existent could be seen as being inaccurate if another person seeing the same existent makes an assertion about one of the other two characteristics, and vice versa. A popular graphic used to show the contrasting attitude of the pessimist and the optimist will help explain this specific dynamic. The optimist sees the container being half full, while conversely, the pessimist sees the container as being half empty. See how both are correct, yet only partially correct, as neither includes the other when asserting the glass is half full or half empty. Also, though, it can be said that both are incorrect because the third element is neglected. In addition, a realist may see the glass as both half full and half empty. The illustration of the 6 blind people experiencing parts of an elephant illustrates the general dynamic. The elephant represents greater reality, while each of the blind people represent the various understandings based on their limited experience of the greater reality. In both illustrations, each assertion is true, but only partially true, and each assertion could be criticized as being incorrect because the other aspects were not asserted. How then can more precise assertions be made? Jainism provides the answer. The definition of predication. Predication, an affirmation, a declaration, a positive statement, the entire statement made about the subject. Jainism outlines the means by which threefold reality can be expressed under 2 Sanskrit headings: Nyavad, meaning the method of standpoints, and Syadvad, meaning the method of conditional predication. Syadvad, in turn, has an additional understanding known in Sanskrit as Saptabhangi Nyaya, 7-fold predication of reality. On page 336 of the Jaina Theories of Reality and Knowledge, Padmarajaya begins the section on Syadvad with a general heading. Syadvad, the conditional dialectic, or Saptabhangi, the theory of 7-fold predication. He goes on to explain, Syadvad, or Saptabhangi, is the conditional method in which the modes or predications affirm, negate, or both affirm and negate severally, that is, individually, or jointly, in 7 different ways, a certain attribute of a thing without incompatibility in a certain context. The inclusion of or in the heading and explanation of the assertion can be seen to imply the two headings are just different wordings for the same insight information. As such, the assertion can be viewed as inaccurate in that differences can be noted between Syadvad and Saptabhangi depending on one's point of view or standpoint. From the understanding of Anekantvad, the inaccuracy is understandable because the heading statement is subject to the three-element structure of reality. That is, the or heading statement is one viewpoint of three. To me, it helps simplify the explanation of this complex insight from an alternative view, which is if Syadvad is seen as being somewhat independent from Saptabhangi. More explanation is forthcoming. For now, here briefly is a chart which will show the various parts of this overall dynamic and explain using one of the other views. Saptabhangi is how to make a statement in a relativistic reality, which is conditioned by Syadvad, which is further conditioned by Nayavad. This part applies to the state of the existent. While each part is an independent insight, they interrelate to form a cohesive, comprehensive view. The chart will be referred to later as a helpful review. Explanation of the parts is next. For English transliteration of the Sanskrit terms, A is pronounced A, as in but. Vowels A and I with macron indicate long A pronounced A, as in saw, and long I pronounced E, as in see. For example, Anekantavad, Syad, Saptabhangi. Keep in mind, Vad means view. For Anekantavad, non-one-sided view. The best way I can explain this knowledge is to begin with an outline of Saptabhangi Nyaya and expand the explanation to show how Nayavad, Syadvad, and Saptabhangi Nyaya are interrelated. Here are the 7 statements or predications in Sanskrit, which will be translated during the explanation. Syad asti, syad nasti, syad asti nasti, syad avaktavya. Syad asti avaktavya, syad nasti avaktavya. Syad asti nasti avaktavya. The explanation of Saptabhangi Nyaya can be seen as comprised of 4 components, together in a logical sequence that forms the 7-fold predication structure. First, we start with a thing that exists, an existent, that is being asserted. As explained, the existent must consist of the 3 essential elements. Second, the next component is avaktavya, meaning inexpressible. Padmarajaya explains that avaktavya needs to be realized as a category by itself. It is a distinct and independent understanding which indicates the limitation of our mind to grasp and express the 3 elements simultaneously. Third, the remaining 3 indicate the need to include the inexpressible in each assertion. Fourth, considering the inexpressibility of each of the three elements, is and is not, how can an assertion be made? An assertion can be made if the point of view of the one making the assertion is defined. In the Jain view, the assertion needs to be conditioned by certain understandings. The Sanskrit term to indicate the assertion has constraints or conditions is syad, meaning from a particular standpoint or in a certain sense. Nyavad, 7 conditions that apply to syadvad. The definition of Nyavad. Whatever be the subject matter, a view which offers a relatively true account of it is Nyaya. With its Nyavad, Jainism provides 7 Nyaya standpoints, or views, to be applied to each assertion. I'm briefly presenting the 7 here to show the sensitive sophistication of the Jaina understanding of reality. Take a moment to reflect and appreciate. The 7 conditions can be understood as guidelines for ensuring the accuracy of an assertion, and also understood as guidelines for analyzing the accuracy of an assertion. In this text, there is an explanation of the purpose of Nyavad, which helps appreciate the sophisticated, comprehensive perception of the Jaina scholars. It is too lengthy to include here and is presented at the end of this video. To add to the detailed complexity of Saptabhanginaya, there are 4 additional states of the existent needing to be considered. In Sanskrit, the 4 are Dravya, Bhav, Kshetra, Kal, translated as the particular existent, the condition or state of the existent, the place of the occurrence, and the particular time of the occurrence. Also, the term eva is understood as added to each assertion to signify the certainty that each assertion is exclusive of any others. Thus, 3 plus 1 plus 3 equals 7 predications. Now a review showing how Nyavad, Syadvad, and Saptabhanginaya are interrelated and interwoven like 3 threads of a cloth. All 3 sections are synthesized and articulated in Saptabhanginaya. While seeming complex, memorizing the Sanskrit version of Saptabhanginaya is productive as well as fun. It is like memorizing a sutra, easy to recall, ponder, translate, and apply to one's understanding of reality. Shad asti, shad nasti, shad asti nasti, shad avaktavya. Shad asti avaktavya, shad nasti avaktavya. Shad asti nasti avaktavya. So why is it helpful for you to know this? It is helpful because it gives you a special power. The power to understand the reality in which you live, and thereby make decisions that are best for your well-being, particularly the well-being of your soul. That's enough philosophy for now. Parts 1 and 2 provided Jainism knowledge of reality. Part 3 will focus on how this knowledge gets applied and is significant in our lives. Namaste. I bow to your eternal, everlasting energy with consciousness soul, the real you. The idea behind the delineation of Nyas. The definition of delineation. Delineation, the action of describing or portraying something precisely. The idea behind the delineation of Nyas. Concerning one thing or many things, the views of one person or many persons are of diverse kinds. That is to say, if the views concerning even one single thing are enumerated, they will appear to be limitless, and hence it becomes impossible to make acquaintance with all of these views concerning this thing. So to undertake not a very brief nor a very detailed, but a medium elaboration of these views is what the delineation of Nyas comes to. Thus, the delineation of Nyas means a classification of views, and the doctrine of Nyaya means an investigation into views. The doctrine of Nyaya not only discusses what the respective causes of the different views are, what their respective consequences are, what their respective subject matters are, but its chief aim is to look for the seed of compatibility among views that appear to be mutually contradictory, but are not really so. So the doctrine of Nyaya can be briefly interpreted as follows. It is the discipline which looks for the seed of real compatibility among views that appear to be mutually contradictory, and which thus synthesizes these views.